Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today, I'm really excited to have on Emily Watson. So, Emily is a certified plant geek who loves connecting people with their own personal plant allies and their healer within. Born and raised in Santa Barbara, California, she's been studying holistic health since 2007. Emily is the founder of the Artemisia Academy of Herbal Arts and Healing. I never really usually read bios, but I felt compelled to this time for whatever reason. So, welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Yeah, excited to get to know you a little bit more. As I was reading your bio, I read that you apprenticed at both HerbPharm and at the North American Institute of Medical Herbalism. That's Paul Bergner's school or former school. Just kind of curious if you'd kind of tell the HerbRally audience your experience both at the HerbPharm farm as well as Paul Bergner School.
Great question. I love the HerbPharm internship, and for anyone that has 3 months of their life, the ability to live someplace else for a short period of time and get an incredible amount of hands-on experience with the herbs themselves, there's no experience like it. You get to live on the farm. You get to live with a bunch of other interns in a beautiful intern house. They built a very nice house for the interns to live, and then you work about 32 hours a week in exchange for free classes, access to a ridiculous amount of herbal medicine that you get to make and take home. And they just load up the program with so many opportunities for you guys to meet other herbalists and tour other farms and see kind of the behind the scenes of a lot of the herbal businesses out there. So that was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could go home with a bunch of HerbPharm tincture.
I went home with like 2 gallons of ethanol. I think I hitchhiked out of there, and nowadays I think that might have not been the best idea.
Right.
But I had a backpack full of medicine. I had to ship home a bunch of stuff because I couldn't travel with all of it. Yeah, I had medicine from there for years. So
Awesome.
I actually just had a graduate go through their internship, and she also had an amazing experience. And she's just like the amount of hands-on experience that you're getting, the classes that you're taking. It's an program. So they do a great job. And I know that they just opened it up again after COVID. So they're looking for more interns, and
Mm.
it's a very exciting program to go through. And then
So you definitely recommend it to like the budding herbalist who wants to really get that farm experience.
absolutely. And even if you've gone through an herbal program, but you haven't gotten that much like hands-on, like I remember spending a couple of years doing my own kind of, self-paced education and just never meeting the plants. And so
Yeah.
getting to actually touch the plants, see what they look like, see how they develop over the years. And then you even get harvesting experience too.
Mm.
And so it was an incredible learning experience for me and for any stage of your herbal career, but the beginners, it's definitely more geared towards, for sure.
Yeah, I still fantasize about doing that someday, and I'm well into my journey, but yeah, it never hurts to learn more, and especially with that hands-on experience. So yeah, how about your experience at Paul's school?
Paul's school was amazing. It took me a couple years to find the right herb school to go to.
Sure.
And at the time, there wasn't herb schools in Southern California, so I had to look out of state. Um, I picked his school because he was that school was one of the few programs that offered a clinical internship where the students were doing the intakes, not you watching someone else do it.
Wow.
And there's Paul still has his own school as a distance learning school, and now he's teamed with I believe it's called Acorn Herb
Yep,
School.
you got it. With
Okay.
Heather Luna, yep.
Yeah, and apparently they worked together years ago with the first rendition of the Colorado Herb School,
Oh, cool.
and so that's really cool that they now offer that as a little duo team distance learning style school, and now the school is the Colorado School. I need to be looking this up. The Colorado School of Clinical Herbalism, kind of on the name.
Yep.
Yeah, and they still do a 2-year program. They have, daytime and evening classes now. And I believe they also developed a farm kind of outside of Boulder. So
Oh,
yeah, my experience there was great. It was a full year of anatomy, physiology, herbal training, and then the second year was a clinical internship and a nutrition program as well. They had a flower essence program for people that wanted to do that as well. And, for me, I knew that a lot of herbalists were coming out of training without that hands-on clinical experience. And so that's what I was really looking for. And it was a great internship to go through their clinical program. Absolutely. We only saw like 10 people ourselves, but we got to read over, 80 to 100 case studies over the year. So we got a really good experience with the world of clinical herbalism. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually just had Heather Luna on for like a roundtable episode of sorts, and it was great to get to know her. And over at the Acorn School, also a California-based herb school. And when I was chatting with her, this term vitalist perspective came up a couple times, and I know you also teach in the vitalist perspective. So can you kind of tell the HerbRally audience what it means to be a vitalist herbalist?
Vitalism stems from the idea that your body has an inherent underlying, know-how of how to heal itself, and we're tapping into that rather than trying to fix things. And so, vitalism supports the body's natural processes like digestion, elimination, sleep, all the basic things that we need to rest and recover. And by tapping into your body's own natural healing abilities, it does the work itself. And of course, there's a time and place for, extreme measures, modern medicine, emergency medicine. It's not it's not a, alternative. It's an integrative approach to healthcare where we're really doing as much preventative and self-healing work that we can, and then working with other practitioners where needed when you need more support.
I hope this doesn't sound derogatory. It's not meant to, but it almost seems like an obvious thing. Like we should be treating the body in this way, right? So that's one thing I love about Paul's work is it always just stems back to exercise, diet, sleep, reduction in stress, all the above.
So what I tell my students and my clients is, when you work with a doctor nowadays, they have to see so many patients per day that on average they get 5 to 8 minutes, and that's if they're lucky with clients. And so although they might want to recommend nutrition and lifestyle, even if they do, they don't have the time to coach people through it. And so herbalists nowadays are acting more like a health coach, a wellness coach, and a full rounded approach because the doctors don't have the time to do it. And so we have a great place in modern medicine because we are kind of doing the daily work with people to learn the hard skills of, we all know we should eat better, but how do we really do it? How do we really do it with a busy life and a crazy schedule and a small budget? And our job as herbalists is to find kind of the outside the box ways of living life more holistically.
Absolutely. And I did quite a bit of research on you before the episode, but I actually didn't read this, or at least I didn't find it out. Are you seeing clients, or are you mainly doing mostly teaching these days?
I do mostly teaching, but I do still see clients on the side. Over COVID, I picked up a few sliding scale clients. I still see them because as our world has gotten crazier post-COVID, access to some healthcare has been harder for some folks. And so I've continued to see a handful of sliding scale clients. And then a lot of my clients nowadays are students, people that I've been working with through the program, and they just want a little more direct support. And then, I've got a handful of people from before I started the school that I still work with from time to time too. So
if one of the listeners did want to see you as their health coach of sorts, could they reach out to you and have, like, say, Zoom?
Absolutely. I do
awesome.
Zoom consultations or phone consultations, and then we have a page on our website in the About section. And so I do schedule sessions with people. I usually do like a 15-minute free phone chat, and then if we feel like we're a good fit, we schedule sessions from there.
Awesome. So. I think I cut you off, though. I don't know if you remember that train of thought. Okay, cool. No, all right, we're good to go then. Well, before we move on, I got to ask, for those watching on YouTube versus just the audio version, you got a beautiful background. What's going on behind you?
This is the mountains of Santa Barbara. So I live at the top of Santa Barbara, and I was born and raised here. This is, to me, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Every time I travel, I'm like, gosh, it's so much greener in many other places. But I still find this amazing deep love of our Chaparral Mountains. We've got a few trees, if you can see a couple at the top. We've got this rocky kind of, intense hillside. We live in kind of a desert chaparral climate. So right at the moment, it's actually like 30 degrees outside when it's almost like 55, 60 down in the city. So we have our own little ecosystem, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place to take hikes in. So I'm very lucky to live up here and to get to really enjoy nature every single day.
So are you going to be a lifer in Santa Barbara?
That's my dream. I tried to leave a lot, and life kind of kept spinning me back down here. And eventually, I was like, "Oh, this is actually where I really want to be,"
Yeah.
And so, it took me finding the right people, the right person. My husband is also a Santa Barbara native, and
That helps.
it really helps to feel more planted here. And I started up the school kind of on accident, being like, well, there's no one else doing it here, so I guess I'll just be here. And I really found my community through doing the work that I do.
Just a quick break from the show to let you know about our herbalism freebies. So if you'd like to get a bunch of ebooks, herbal community discounts, videos, audio lessons, all the above and more, you could go to HerbRally.com, and at the top of the navigation menu, you're going to see a button that says freebies. So when you fill out that form, you're going to be signing up for our email newsletter, and in exchange, you're going to get a ton of herbalism freebies, and you're going to love the email newsletter because it updates you on herbalism events, new YouTube videos, etc. So I know you're going to love it. So thank you so much, and now back to the show. I listened to your Tea Talks with Ji Ling, and I want to say you get a lot of students from the Los Angeles area. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite a bit from Southern California, and kind of sporadic all over Southern California, but LA is a hot spot for a lot of our students.
I would imagine, yeah. Well, okay, so speaking of your school, I'd love to hear about the journey of creating it. You said it kind of started by accident, but before we get into that, I'm just kind of curious, what's the significance? Because it seems like Artemisia genus is like your flagship plant. So what's your fondness for Artemisia?
Well, Artemisia is one of the first plants I learned about. A lot of people in this area know that, wherever poison oak grows, mugwort does too. And mugwort is, some people call it the antidote for poison oak. It's more like it's a really helpful aid if you're not totally allergic to poison oak. And so I learned it. It was one of my first plant ID plants. And then eventually down the line, I learned about the archetype of Artemis. And Artemis, a lot of people know her as the Greek goddess of, the hunt or the forest. And in reality, she's more like the protectress of Mother Nature. And so she always amorphosized into a bear or wild boar to protect the wild places, to protect women and children in need. And so the more I learned about her, the more I loved Artemisia, and really kind of fell into that living your dream, living your purpose sort of archetype, and protecting our ecosystems and our future herb sheds for generations. So that's where that came from.
It's a beautiful name.
Yeah.
I adore that. And so it sounds like you like the mugwort. Are you a fan of, say, wormwood as well?
Oh, of course. And when I was at HerbPharm, I think my first week on HerbPharm, the farm crew, they give you secrets that no one's supposed to teach you. And so we learned how to distill wormwood our first week hanging out with the farm crew. Don't tell them I said that, but they told us all sorts of fun things like that.
Just between you and me, yeah.
Yeah, just between us, yeah. So wormwood is amazing. It's a great digestive bitter, and I actually use it a lot for people that can't sleep due to liver issues, due to having a hard time digesting foods. And so just a little bitters sometimes right before you go to sleep can help with people that have a hard time digesting. It's waking them up through the evening. So, and then I also like California sagebrush, which is another signature here. And
is that Artemisia tridentata? Am I getting that right?
Tridentata is a Great Basin sagebrush, so that's a little more southern desert. And then, but it grows across Idaho, Colorado, you name it. And then we have Artemisia californica, which is a little bit more feathery. And they both have one of the most amazing scents, I think. People talk about smudging a lot. We talk about alternative herbs rather than white sage, because white sage, Chumash and many other tribes have been like, please don't harvest it. It's getting over harvested. And so sagebrush, I think, is a great alternative because it's summer deciduous. Its leaves die in the summertime. And so it's already going to have this cycle of death and rebirth. It's a better one to harvest from than something that, when you're trying to harvest it, you're kind of uprooting the plant and wiping out a population. So
totally. Yeah. Another one of my favorite Artemisias is tarragon. And I feel like not many people really talk about it in the herbalism sphere. It's more like culinary, but I've got some apple cider vinegar, tarragon, apple cider vinegar going on upstairs. Absolutely love that plant. And I really want to have someone write a monograph for tarragon for HerbRally. So if you're out there and you're listening, you want to write a tarragon monograph, hit me up. But
I'm gonna
yeah,
have
there's
to
so
take
many
a look at
amazing.
that one. That sounds
Yeah, right.
amazing.
I'll let you know if it ever goes live. But well, let's hear more about the school. What was your journey for creating it, and where are you at today?
Uh, Interesting journey. I had no intention of starting an herb school, except I did. And after years after starting my school, I went back to many journals over the last couple decades and found out I had dreamt about it several times. I had wanted to do it several times and totally forgotten that dream. I was doing my massage practice full time. I was a massage therapist for a while in between learning herbalism, went back to massage in California, and my back went out. And from that experience, I was like, okay, life rewrite. What am I doing? I need a more holistic work plan. And kind of came back to this concept of like, I'd like to do an apprentice program. I'd like to do a 1 week in a month, herbal journey class. And no one was teaching herb classes down here. I had been doing herb walks for a few years, and Howie Bernstein from Oregon came down and gave me a visit. And he was like, well, if I were to do an herb school in California, it would definitely be in Santa Barbara. He planted some seeds for me. And just was like, all right, I'll start this apprentice program. And I started running it for about a year and a half. And then I got another visit from him, another little hint, and then I realized, you're right. No one does have herb schools. There's like 4 herb schools in all of Southern California, and they're very few and far between. And so, I decided to kind of start my own program, to start going into it. And then just before COVID hit, I went full time with it and made it a year, couple times a year, year-round program. And it was the perfect timing for me to transition out of massage. The massage industry was put on halt for most of COVID. And so I luckily had a job. And from there, I finished my first 100-hour program. I'm a good overwriter of curriculum. I don't know if you overteach. I overteach. And so I stretched it out to 150 hours within a couple of years. I realized I could make it a better program. And then my students wanted to keep going. And so I ended up writing a level 2 program, our community herbalist program. And over COVID, stretched that one out a little bit more. So we finally are out to a 500-hour totals in education.
Wow.
And then this last year, I had, a couple more rounds of our level 2 graduate, and they're like, well, this is great. We're starting our herbal businesses, but how do we do it? Do you got any advice? And so, again, I was like, okay, I guess I'm writing more programs. And so we started developing the Holistic Entrepreneurial Program, and we'll be launching it live. It'll be our first fully automated, but very still hands-on and interactive program. We'll be launching that in October, November this year. And it'll be a first, I've never seen anything like it, but will be the first year-long mentorship program for holistic entrepreneurs to learn how to start up, run, and expand their holistic businesses. So pretty excited
that's awesome.
about that one.
Yeah, and just for the listener, it's artemisiaacademy.com. And I'll leave links as usual in the podcast show notes. Emily, I don't know if you knew this, but Howie Brownstein is my OG herbal mentor.
Well, he kind of came out of the woodworks for me. He said he stalked me on Facebook or Instagram or something, and his dad lives in town. So
exactly, he's from the area. So that's awesome.
And and then I just interviewed Lanny Coffer in Ojai, and I didn't realize that I'm gonna totally mess up his name. William Lassassier. Thank you. He started in Santa Barbara, and I was like, wow. I had no idea. There's more herbal history here than I knew about. So I keep learning about all these different people that have crossed path through this area. So it's a place that needed herbalism, and I'm really glad that I got to step into the role. So.
Well, William Lassassier is an absolute legend, and he trained David Winston, Margie Flint, and the list goes on. So that's very cool to hear that he's from your neck of the woods. And yeah, like you said, there's deep herbalism in the Santa Barbara area, and Awesome. Well, I'd like to read something. Well, is there anything else you want to add about the school? I'm sure we'll touch on it more throughout the episode.
For people that are looking to start their journey, we do our Herbal Apprentice program. And so that's, we do a live online program. We're going to be finally rolling out a self-paced program for people that are interested, because we get more and more phone calls of people saying, we're interested, we want to do it, but my schedule is all over the place. People in California, I don't know about where you're from, but in California,
Yep.
people work 2 to 3 jobs to get by because our rent is so expensive.
Totally.
So we're finally coming up with a self-paced program that will have a lot of office hours and check-ins with teachers and stuff, so that we still keep that live element, but people can do it a little bit more on their own pace. So
Very cool.
we're going to be having more options for students that are online digital learners from around the country very soon.
Yeah, you have a very robust website and offerings, and just looking at who's on your team, I mean, you've got an amazing team. You've got content creators, you got apothecary manager, marketing director. So yeah, y'all are really doing it up. It's very impressive to see.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, developing the school. I want to just say, when I started the school, I never thought that it would be more than just me. And within just a couple of years, I realized I need a lot of help. And because COVID happened, we started having an online school. That was an accident. I always knew I might do it eventually, but that kind of forced us that direction. And before I knew it, I was like, oh, we're doing a remote school. That means I have to ship herb kits to students. And so all of a sudden we needed someone to manage an apothecary and pack hundreds of little baggies of herbs to ship off to students. And, things have just continually grown. And I've been very, very blessed to have incredible students that have then graduated and gone on to work with us for a number of years. And we've just been slowly growing our team as our little school grows. So it's been a lot of fun.
And it was all an accident of sorts.
Yeah,
and
sort of.
So when
Divine
you
intervention.
right, exactly. I would have to imagine it sort of is. I mean, it feels kind of like would you say it's like your life's purpose or a calling for you to do this?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
the few times that I have felt very lost in life, I've always come back to some wild place in nature and gotten a very, very clear download of, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Don't mess it up.
Was there any fear involved with going from not having a school to starting it? Like, is this going to work? You know what I mean? Like,
the first couple of rounds was, I didn't even consider it a school for the first few rounds. I was just like, I just wanted to do it. And so I was already working, teaching at a massage school. I've been teaching anatomy and physiology and writing curriculum for a few years for another school. And very naturally, I was like, well, but herbs is where my heart really is.
Yeah.
And so, I've just loved teaching, and teaching has been my passion, my purpose, but teaching holistic living and entrepreneurship is definitely something that I've come to settle into my own doing that work. So absolutely is my passion for sure.
Awesome. Well, it does sound like a lot of work. With all the programs, 500 hours plus, keep adding new programs. When I was reading your bio, I'm going to read something, and then we'll have you comment on it. Because I thought this was really great and probably very useful for the listener, because running a business is a lot of work, and sometimes you find yourself working these insane hours just because you want to make sure it works. You want to, it's just there's just so much to keep track of, so much admin stuff. You got to constantly catch up on email and everything. And yeah, but then I read this, and I was really appreciative that you included this in your bio, and I just had to bring it up because I think a lot of people will get a ton of value out of it. So you wrote, my life was not meant to be a hamster wheel of exhaustion and disconnection from my own happiness. Even as I watched my own clients heal and build happier lives, healing others at my own expense, talk about a contradiction. And then you have a list. Over the next few months, I decided to prioritize my self-care first by, you stopped overworking, you quit half of your side job so you could focus more on your own herbalist business, you raised your prices, you started focusing on your own business instead of helping everyone else with theirs, you fired bad, non-compliant clients who were draining the life out of you, and you upped your self-care. And then you said, pretty soon I was being paid my true worth as an herbalist, and my body was truly nourished and supported. You stopped feeling exhausted and depressed and started to heal. So I just wanted to kind of touch on a few points, but before I do that, did you have anything you wanted to say about that?
Uh, I want to just say I didn't get there overnight. And you know,
I love
and
that.
that process of, you know, I love that you bring up, you know, how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. That overworking and getting back to balance is something, if anyone's thinking about running their own business, this is what I tell all of my students from the get-go. There are two skills,
Yeah.
herbalism or whatever your practice or passion purpose is, and then business. And finding the balance of loving what you do and not overworking is going to be an ongoing skill. Yeah.
Well, I think I have a really great self-care routine, just, just patting myself on the back over here. And I still find myself working on the weekends when me and Amanda continuously say, let's not work on the weekends. And sometimes I just can't help myself. I'm like, no, it's HerbRally's my hobby though, but is it really, So
I,
I do want to talk more about that. But I really like what you said there is you said it didn't happen overnight. And when I was listening to your interview with Ji Ling on Tea Talks on the Mountain Rose Herbs podcast, you said dream big and take small steps. And that's kind of what you alluded to there, I want to say.
Yeah, I remember when Howie came to visit the last time, he was like, "So what are you going to do with this herb school?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to have a 1,000-hour program." And he was like, "Okay, yeah, that's great." You know, and he knew what that really meant, and I had no idea at the time. This was years ago. And you know, every time I dream up I have in my head 5 total programs.
Totally.
And after years of being an entrepreneur, I finally realized that it's going to take 10 times longer than I expect. Go slower, be more intentional, take the time.
Yeah.
And now it's my 10-year plan. Maybe it'll be my 20-year plan to have programs, but originally I was like, I'll do it in the next 2 years,
Yeah.
and I know for myself that it's taken a long time to pace myself and to really learn self-sustainability in everything that I do, and that means taking smaller steps. If you're an ambitious person, awesome, don't lose it, but don't burn yourself out by trying to do all of it at once, because you can't. And I can only say that from someone who's tried many, many times and failed, and so going back to the self-care practices, I cannot run a business without always first working on my self-care, because if I don't, I burn out.
Yeah.
I stop caring, this thing called apathy, and not giving flying F's about anything, like it comes up. And
Right.
when I stop loving what I'm doing, then why am I doing it?
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, you work 10 times harder than any regular job. And hopefully it pays off more than any other regular job eventually,
Hopefully.
but you have to build in a way of taking care of yourself regularly. Otherwise, burnout does happen. And that's something that I see so much in the holistic field. In the massage world, I saw people doing 30 plus massages a week and never getting massaged themselves, and within 5 years breaking their bodies. And that was like very standard in that industry. So when I started this school, when I started really getting into building this curriculum, that was one of the things that I wanted to teach as a core principle, was that self-care as a practitioner, as a holistic business owner, has to be the foundation of everything you do, because if not, you will crumble. And when your business relies on you, that means your business and your income falls apart as well.
Yeah. And as you said, taking the small steps and anticipating that these projects will take longer than usual, that really does translate to many things in life. And Amanda and I really like to watch like home renovation shows. And the consistent theme that comes up is it always costs more money than you think, and it's always going to take longer than you think. So it's kind of a parallel there.
So as a off-grid homesteader myself, I know what that's like. I'm very lucky. I married an engineer who can build anything, who can design anything, understand solar, electrical, you name it, systems. I don't understand those things, you guys. I try, but I understand this much. But our experience has typically been with the building front too. Like, it'll always be more expensive and take longer. And the reality is, especially with off-grid living, it will always break, and you will always end up working on it about 10 times more before it really works.
It's not as glamorous as they make you think it is, but I'm sure it's very rewarding. And I'm sure your husband really loves doing it, or maybe I have no idea.
He does most of the time, except for when like the power goes out in the middle of the rain, and then
oh God, I gotta go out there again. Totally.
But even like with this business, like when I started, I thought I was always going to do an in-person program, and then COVID hit, and I had to rewrite everything. And I was lucky enough to have an amazing student who'd already been coaching people online for years, being like, here's Zoom. This is how you do it, and then she hooked me up with one of her students that taught online courses and helped me learn how to do online, digitizing courses. And then from there, a few years into doing that, now the economy is totally shifting. And from live online courses, I'm now seeing this trend of students really want it, but they don't have the availability. Right. And so now we're going to more automated online courses. And so, with this, it takes longer than you think. Yeah. Life also doesn't always happen according to your plan. Absolutely. And so you kind of have to be like the willow and be bendy and shifty and just go with it, and part of being an entrepreneur, part of being a holistic practitioner, a lot of times is learning to go with the changes, as your interest change as a practitioner, a lot of times your niche or your focus, your clientele base will change. And, I never planned to just do herbal consultations. I always thought I was going to do massage and all these other things. And I started losing interest in massage. I never thought that would happen, and so your business and your lifestyle, all those things will shift over time. And then I know you probably go through this too. Like, I never expected I'd want to be a family person. And, we just got a puppy. So we're getting our taste of parenthood. We're getting our training right at the moment. It's really important.
Good way to put it. Yep.
And we're, now that I'm married, me and my husband are looking at starting a family. And that means my business will have to completely shift so that I have the time. And so, with life comes these beautiful challenges and unexpected changes that part of the self-care practice is getting back to, even when everything around you is shifting, how do you keep your cool when it's going on? So
Emily, you're spitting knowledge. I love it. This is awesome. You're speaking my language. All right. Well, as I was talking about when I was reading that little section of your bio, I kind of want to touch on a few bullet points, if you wouldn't mind. Let's talk about the importance of raising your prices.
I started out wanting to work in free clinics and sliding scale clinics. That was my dream when I went to herb school. And right out of herb school, right out of massage school, right after that, I started seeing clients at $40 an hour. Maybe it was $35 an hour at the time. And that's because that's what my sliding scale student clinics were charging. I thought that's what I should charge too. I wanted to help people. So I was really putting my prices affordably. And what I found very quickly was that at a very no cost or low cost clientele base, a lot of times they have, more things come up in life. They can't show up as often. I had a lot of no-shows, even though I'd spent a lot of time preparing for people. And I was working my tail off, but burning out because I still had to work 2 to 3 other jobs to get by because herbalism or massage wasn't cutting it. And so eventually I had to kind of have this conversation with myself of, am I doing herbs because I love it? Or am I doing it because I actually want to make a living off of it at some point in time and not have to work at coffee shops and restaurants and, do all these other things. And then my tiniest little extra bit of energy goes into what I actually love.
Right.
And so, and this is what I think a lot of herbalists come to is like, is it going to be something that you make money off of or not? And a lot of people are scared of this concept called money. I don't know about you. Did you ever go through that fear base?
Yeah. I mean, I would say yes. And I've always kind of identified as a low income type person. I've glorified minimalism and just living very frugally. And I still really value that frugality and everything. And I've definitely had to retrain a lot of my mindset around money. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, I definitely went through that process.
Yeah. And I think, I went from the, you know, punk too cool to buy
Yeah.
anything stage, the freegan
Right.
stage, to
Yep.
eventually realizing that, when people do pay a little more money, like, and I noticed this for myself too, like if I actually had to pay money for something, I showed up
Yeah. Exactly.
because
Yeah.
I had
Accountability.
invested,
Yeah.
and then eventually it kind of came down to a little bit of self-worth,
Mhm.
and I had a lot of deep layers to go through of like, I can buy myself new clothes because I am worth it. It's not bad. I can break the freaking rules there,
Right.
and then eventually I grew into more and more of like, oh, I never learned concepts of money and managing money until I ran a business. And it was
Hmm.
through my business entrepreneurial training that I started looking at how much life costs and the realities of if I have dreams and I want to do things, how much more I'm going to have to make.
Yeah.
And then eventually that reality of, oh, money will be important to me one day. And the older that I get, I hate to say it, but the older you get, eventually you do grow up a little bit. And especially if you are aiming towards a more settled life, family, kids, whatever, if you've got dependents, you have to have a stable income.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the younger generation, I know for myself, that never crossed my mind of understanding.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to just have that reality shift is like, as your life changes need, your financial changes will happen too. And so for me, raising my prices was partly, self-worth, and then partly also the necessity of, how many hours a week do you really want to work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a taboo topic in the herbal community. I feel like, strangely enough, we want to make a decent living doing what we love. And I'm finding, as you become more successful in your career, ironically, I don't know if it's ironic or not, but you're actually able to help out a lot more. You're able to give more without. Then again, I know a lot of people are very giving. If it's not necessarily a money thing, it depends on how you give, I suppose. But yeah, I'm still kind of working through all that. But I like that you're associating with like a self-worth thing. And yeah, definitely, it's definitely a process. But I really love talking about this because I think it's a useful conversation for the herbal community.
I feel like it's taboo to talk business, marketing, and making money.
Yeah.
And, it's not like I want to be a millionaire, but
Right.
the honest truth is if I want to stay in Santa Barbara, the cost of buying a house is at least $1 million.
Right.
All right. And eventually I had to have that
For a two-bedroom.
for a two-bedroom condo next to this train.
Right.
Like
Right.
let's just be really real.
Yeah.
And so, my option of long-term living here is, that my awesome cheap rent situation just manages to luck out for my life. We'll see what happens. We have a great, we live on a ranch. We're very lucky. We have an amazing landlord that is the blessed, most wonderful person. If that ever changes, though, I have to have an idea of a future. And if I want to stay where I love to live,
Yeah.
I will have to think financially smarter.
Yeah.
And then the other part is like, we that taboo of money kind of has to shift, because the truth is people don't stay in this industry unless they are paid for by somebody else, their spouse or their parents. I hate to say it, but it's true. If you're a partial dependent on someone, you're not actually independent.
Mm.
And I think that was a hard thing for me to come to terms with for myself, as I realized that I was a chronic under earner my entire life because I thought that money wasn't cool. And eventually you kind of get sick of feeling poor,
Yeah.
you know? So, but to the other side of that too, is like, I don't think that because I need to make money, I should take advantage of people. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I
Of
raised
course.
my prices with my school, not because I'm making more money. It's because I'm paying for a team. And I want to make sure that my staff is paid a living wage, and that costs a lot more in California than I'd like to admit, but the reality is that, like, if you really want to take care of other people more and you want to give more services, give from abundance. So because I have a regular clientele, because I charge my students and my clients a real rate, I can afford to have scholarships. I can afford to, occasionally have someone take class for free. I can afford to have sliding scale clients that I still have some people that are paying me $20 an hour because I know that is all they can do and they're working their hardest to do that.
And you're able to do it because you're making a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I would be working 3 jobs and barely have time for clients.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. What a topic. This is fantastic. Thank you for sharing all that, being vulnerable, and yeah, because I know it's not easy for everyone to talk about, so I really do appreciate it. And why don't we move on to I suppose it's all really related. You started focusing on your own business instead of helping out everyone else with theirs. Would you say that's kind of peripherally related?
Yeah, but I think that hasn't fully changed. I've always liked being a business coach, and it took me years to figure out that that's what I actually love to do too. But I started with teaching business classes in the massage school, and then eventually, finally started dreaming up this program. And now that we're halfway through recording it, our first round, it's been really fun. And I think what was hard for me to realize is that as an entrepreneur, you're going to get a lot of advice from other people. And eventually you start learning enough skills that you also start seeing where everyone else is going wrong too. And you start giving a lot of advice to people. And when you stay on your side of the street and focus on what you have to do, you will get more done. And so the last couple of years, I've done a lot of work reading books on entrepreneurship. I've taken a lot of classes. I've been every year I've gone through a new business coach, and if you think that you can just learn business and you're done, you guys, that's not how it actually goes. It's an ongoing learning process. I've constantly been signing up for other teaching programs in terms of entrepreneurship, as well as I started really devoted a lot of time to reading on topics that I was just not good at. So money management, that's when I went through time management, especially for, I'd say, the holistic minded folks. We are not fit in the box people. We don't adhere to schedules very well and deadlines very well. And so learning how to really manage projects, now that I'm managing teams, I also have to manage deadlines and making sure that progress happens. And so all these different aspects. What's another good topic that we've learned on? Time management, money management, calendar management.
No.
I could go on that for staff management. I mean, I'm a boss. I never thought I'd say that in my life. When
leadership skills and everything.
When I started hiring people, I was like, I always hated the boss. I was always the rule breaker, and now I'm the boss, And so learning how to be the best boss that I can be, how to not be too soft, but get things done, it's a real skill that you have to learn. And I finally started devoting time to finding YouTube videos and reading books. And so part of my self-care is, my movement practice, my teas, but it's also education. And so I spend 10 to 20 minutes a day, on YouTube or reading books, reading Kindle books or whatever to keep learning, because I don't know it all. I'm never going to know it all, and you got to figure out a way to make it a little bit easier so that you're not killing yourself and hitting your head against the wall all the time. So,
do you have any favorite YouTubers or podcasts or books in the business or marketing realm that you think would vibe or jive with the herbal community? Because I know some of them seem like total shucksters out there, and
I've got a number of them. Let's see here. For money, time management, there's this lady that goes through to like Fun, Cheap, or Free. And she's like a mom of like 7+ kids, and she runs an online business and a household at the same time. I don't know how she does it, and like seeing people that are extremely busy being really productive, I think is a really cool thing to watch. And then let's see here. For books, I really like this book called Traction. They call it the EOS world. He has a whole ecosystem of books, but Traction is a great one for people that are like getting to businesses that are bigger than just them to manage. That has changed how I run my business, honestly. And
Very cool.
eventually I got over the idea that I'm this holistic business and it's just me and it's totally fine to, I run a company.
Yeah.
We are now incorporated. That is a scary thing to say. Um, and and there are some things that corporations do right. I know that's almost taboo to say out loud. All right, but there's some things they do right, like making more money and being more structured. And so I've had to learn a little bit of that to be able to manage growing our team. And because of some of the skills that I've learned, like this last couple of years, I've seen us cranking through, making progress and putting things together. And we're looking at developing and scaling more, and
Yeah.
we're succeeding at Facebook ads finally.
Oh, wow.
It's
That's a feat in itself
a
right there.
small win. It's a small win. I know how to do it right finally. Just a little bit.
And you probably learned that from a course you took.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then for people that are trying to do like online sort of online courses or online coaching, this lady called Kate McKibben, she does eCourse Empire. That's the latest one I've joined. Alyssa Coleman, she does Most Profitable Course Ever. Like I've done a lot of online course business coaches. But my biggest advice to people is just see who does it right.
Yeah.
Find business mentors, and they don't even have to be your specific niche, but just the style of business that you do.
Yeah.
Because there's someone that does better. How are they doing it better? Who did they study from? Who's their coach?
Yeah.
And from there you'll get a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and herbalist Rosalie De La Forêt, she's big on this too, taking courses on subjects that are outside of your skill set, especially business and marketing for the herbalist is a really important topic. And I did want to just say, you were talking about different tools. I'll just share with you my tools that I use. So for project management, I use Asana. It's
I use Trello, very similar.
Okay, Trello, respect. Yeah, that's a great one as well. For calendar, I just use Google Calendar. If I schedule something, everything goes in Google Calendar without fail. If I can't do it at the time, I like email myself later to add it in, make sure it gets in there. And then for money management, I actually use something called YNAB. That's YNAB. It's called You Need a Budget. So I use that for both personal budget and HerbRally budget. But then, of course, for the accountant, we use QuickBooks. That's kind of more for the tax side of things. But yeah, I highly recommend that You Need a Budget. We're not affiliated with them or anything. I've just been using them for years, and it's super duper useful for us. So
yeah, and skills and tools like that, like a lot of our holistic entrepreneurial program is all about kind of just walking people through the different aspects of running a business. And so we have a section on business planning where you map it out, put it on paper, get yourself a year kind of budget money plan going, marketing plan going. We have a whole section on marketing. So you learn the ins and outs of creating your brand, creating your presence. What does your image and your look feel like? How do you do posts and emails and set up your website? This month, we're working on our money management. We have an entire 5-week section on money management because you don't learn it overnight. Learning how to use QuickBooks is a skill.
Yeah. And it's a habit too. You got to be in the habit.
Too. Exactly. And so we know the entire month, our students are going to be learning to track their own personal money every single day.
Yeah.
So that they could build on it. And then we now are also going to be going into our digital marketing. And that's, learning how to do social media is a skill set, but learning how to do email sequences and welcome sequences and automating things so that you can actually grow and build an audience as well. And so if you think that you can start a business and you figure it out in a year, I'd love to see what your business is. I've never seen it before. It's taken me, this is my second business now to kind of figure out what I'm doing, and it like you said, it's an ongoing education, and you start learning those tools that you are using every single week without fail. Like you learn these habits that really build a foundation to make things run easily. So yeah.
So as I was mentioning pre-call, this episode will be live in a few months. Will your business course be live by then, do you think?
We will be starting to either have a wait list by then or we will have a sign up page by then. I don't know which will be available, but one of them will be. for sure.
Okay, well, I'll have to be in touch so we can include links to that so people could get learn more about it and whatnot. But so we're getting close to an hour, and I definitely want to get to the G-Ling guest question. But should we hold off on that and go over that third point? Do you got the time to do that,
I got the
Emily?
time. Go for it.
Awesome. So, because I really wanted to touch on this one. This is juicy. Okay, so this is you fired bad, non-compliant clients who are draining the life out of you.
Yeah. Well, have you ever had a clientele practice? Let me just ask.
I have not, but I will say this: parts of the HerbRally business model, I do consider certain people clients to one degree or another, and it definitely resonated. So I have had to quote unquote fire certain types of people, I suppose, not within the HerbRally like ecosystem, not like within like our own business, but outside.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not a clinical herbalist or anything like that. I don't have clients in that regard, but yes, it definitely pertains.
So one of the things that I have had to learn as a holistic practitioner is this beautiful concept called boundaries. And that's something that a lot of people don't teach. This is something that we talk about a lot in our programs. I don't put on any sales page, but golly, it's in there all the time. And part of the boundaries is with yourself, like you said, like, making sure you don't work on the weekends, and then part of the boundaries are with protecting your time and your energy and your overall happiness and serenity every day. And if there are people that call you at absurd times a day because they think that you are the 24-hour hotline to every holistic question out there, you probably don't want to work with them. You probably start resenting every text and phone call you get. If you have people that you every single week give them the same advice over and over again and they're not making progress, it's either you're giving them the wrong advice, which can be real, or they are a non-compliant client, meaning they don't actually want to heal. And there are clients that like being sick. I know this is kind of weird to say, but there are people that like telling their story of, oh, woe is me, and they don't want to make progress because it's too uncomfortable to move out of that place into something different. And so as much as I love helping people, you eventually do have to recognize that there are some people that you can't help, or that you are not the person to help them, and maybe there's someone better suited. And so it took a bit of a process. I kind of had some people leave on their own when I changed my prices. If people are worried about changing their prices because, oh, I'm going to lose all my clients, you won't. The people that left were people I didn't want. It was perfect. All right.
Took care of itself.
It did. And my clients that truly respected me, when I raise my prices, they're like, good for you.
Yeah.
When I go on vacation, they're like, awesome, where are you going? And the reason that they can do that is because by me showing them what self-care truly looks like, taking time off, taking the day off when I'm sick, really important one. All right, I can't tell you how many massage therapists I've seen stuffing Kleenex up their nose and doing a massage. You guys, it happens. It's gross. And no one likes it. No one likes it. All right. And I get why people do it. It's because they're broke, because they're not charging enough. All right. But the truth is your clients see the model of healthcare either from their doctors or from you. And we all know that I love doctors, but very few of them do take care of themselves. I've done chair massage and doctors and nurses, hospitals before. I've seen how hard they work. The 24-hour shifts is not a good model for our basic healthcare. It's not. But in general, if your clients see you not taking care of yourself, how are they going to know to take care of themselves? So when I started realizing that there are some clients that were just pushing boundaries, they were giving me this yuck feeling that I was dreading seeing, I eventually realized it's time to go. And so I've seen some people develop good rules for their standard of practice. Like if you're not better in X many sessions, maybe it's time to refer you out to someone else. I do, typically say 3 to 6 sessions is a good rule for you should see some improvement or some movement. And then otherwise, for me, there's also the energetic boundaries. And this is something I've had to really learn, work on, and be okay talking about, feeling that sort of stuff. And if someone gives me a feeling like I hate myself after I'm done with the session, I don't want to work with them.
Mm.
All right. I should feel better about myself, like I've helped somebody instead of feeling helpless or disgusting or shamed, And so thinking about those internal feelings that happen, this is a two-way street, it's a two-way relationship. And so it needs to be working for you as much, if not more, than it's working for them.
That last point is so spot on. And yeah, just the past couple of months, I had a back and forth email interaction with a certain person, and it was just, as you said, I just felt so uncomfortable afterwards. It's like, I don't need to work with this person. I don't owe them anything. And, I wish them best of luck, and maybe in the future, potentially we could work, but it just didn't feel like a good fit. And I just felt like I had to quote unquote fire that person. And, yeah, I just really love this conversation. It's going to be so useful for all the herbalists out there. Anything else you want to say on that front, or shall we get to the special guest question?
I'll say one last thing.
You
Learning
please.
to fire people with grace takes time. You won't get it right the first time, and it's okay.
Oh, great point. Yeah. And in my case, I had to sit on the email and be like, I'm gonna reword this. Oh wait, I'm gonna have Amanda look at this and make sure it's appropriate, not mean, and reworded it several times over actually. And in the end I was firm, but I stood my ground, but it was professional and it was courteous.
Yeah. And for me, I'm not very good at verbally saying things the right way sometimes. And so something that I've figured out over time is if you feel like that there's a certain boundary that keeps getting crossed over and over again, that's where having policies and procedures come into place. And I
Yeah.
know these are words that some of us don't like, but having some basic office policies, or now I'm developing school policies, that sort of stuff, like lining it out for yourself and for others, what the expectations are, so that when all else fails, you can just go point at a document and say, like, this is how we do things here. And if you don't, here's the door.
Great point. Yeah. And it's constant readjustment on your website. You got to keep changing the verbiage, be like, all right, I'm going to add this in now. So, and you can just point in that direction.
Yeah.
Let the website be the bad guy or bad person.
Exactly.
But,
you signed this document. This is what you got to do. Yeah, exactly.
Totally. Well, this has been a herbal business masterclass. I'm excited for your course. Next time we chat, we should definitely do a round two, because I really want to dive deeper into the self-care side of things, because I know that's a big part of your work. So let's definitely do this again, Emily. But let's do as before the call, I was texting back and forth with Jiling Lin, jilinglin.com. Fabulous herbalist and acupuncturist based in Ventura, California. In fact, she was episode 1 of the Herbalist Hour, where we visited her at her home in Ventura. I'll link to that in the podcast show notes as well. But I know you work with her. Jiling is one of the instructors at the Artemisia School. So when I told her, she didn't even know I was interviewing, and I was like, "Oh, I'm interviewing Emily Watson today." She's like, "Oh, rad." So she didn't say rad. That was me autofilling there.
That doesn't sound like her, but
she's like, totally righteous, Mason. No, so she actually submitted, I want to say 3 questions. We'll just get to one, and then when we meet back up, I'll go over these other questions. So how's that sound? Cool.
Great.
So Jiling says, I love hearing folks talk about their local bioregion. I would love to hear what Emily thinks distinguishes our bioregion from others, especially in terms of medicinal botanicals. How does she, actually, that was the rest of it. I'll say that again so Amanda doesn't have to fiddle with it. All right. Especially in terms of medicinal botanicals.
Great question. I think we have this incredible Mediterranean climate. And so if you guys don't know what Mediterranean climates are, there's only 5 of them 5 places in the world where we have Mediterranean climates. And it's a hot, dry summer, long, dry season, and a short, wet winter. And so this thing called rain didn't happen for like almost 10 years here. So we experienced regular droughts, but we've had rain the last 2 years. It's kind of weird and exciting. Like there's water in our creek in front of our house, and that never happened before. And so having this really interesting climate, a lot of different parts of the world rains regularly. And so because of that, grass will grow all year round. You know, they don't worry about these long droughts as much. And here our plants are adapted to these dry, hot, long seasons without water. And so chaparral, the biome chaparral is a very unique feature because the plants develop these hard, scruffy leaves. They're less flexible. They're not really fun to eat. They have a lot of really strong chemical properties that make them not very tasty. So they're high in tannins or they're high in essential oils. And then we've got also our sagebrush, sage scrub chaparral, which is the coastal, a little bit cooler. The fog actually acts as its moisture regularly. So that's instead of getting rain, we get fog, and some
That's
fog
cool.
condenses and makes the water for the plants. And so the lower elevation as our sage scrub chaparral, and that's they have summer deciduous leaves. So they're flexible, they're soft, they're fluffy, they're smelly. So our sages, sagebrush, that comes from that area. And they are summer deciduous plants, meaning they lose their leaves in the summertime or they dry up and get kind of looking like there's nothing there for most of the year. And so because of this, it's really interesting because I've got some students from around the country where they're like, hey, we've got green stuff growing like crazy everywhere. And I'm like, that's really cool. Here, we don't harvest very much. And so me and Jolene both have had this question with each other, like, what's your favorite thing to harvest? And it's like, well, I used to harvest a lot, but the more that I know this land, the less that I harvest because I know how hard it is for those plants to grow. So, because of it, I feel like we have a little bit longer of a getting to know you period with the plants to figure out what you can harvest, when, how often. Howie Bernstein, he taught me his approach, and that's, I don't let my first year students harvest at all. And after hearing his spiel on it, I adopted that for the school too. And that's just
Cool.
because, botany skills, safety, as well as I have seen entire stands eradicated in just a few months, from people getting too excited and harvesting what they didn't know was a very small patch. Mm. So I think in general, we take our land to be sacred. We take it slow and we develop relationships with plants. And that means giving back before taking. So if you want to harvest something, get to know it for not just like a couple of days, like sit with it for a year, see it through its seasons, see it through several seasons, see if it comes back year by year or if it completely gets gobbled up by the natural stuff that's there, and if you do see that it's abundant and flourishing, help with that relationship by helping plant seeds and helping to water it when it's dry. And if you do want to harvest it, after tending it for a time and giving it back first, then you can ask and see if you're allowed to take any. And if you always get a yes, I got this from a student. If you always get a yes, you're not really listening.
I love that. That's so well put.
I didn't make that one up, but it's really good. Yeah, and so I think our biome, it needs tender love and care. It's got an abundance of medicine, but you gotta take it slow and you gotta be really respectful. So I guess that's my 2 cents.
Oh, that's 4 cents.
Okay.
Howie Brownstein also says the hard part isn't harvesting the plant. The hard part is not harvesting the plant.
Yeah.
And I took his 2-year apprenticeship, the Columbine School of Botanical Studies. So I'm very well versed in that. I love everything you just said there, Emily. That's amazing. And I like that you kind of incorporated that into the Artemisia School philosophy. So that's awesome. You got time for a little funsies question?
Sure.
Awesome. Just any personal plant allies you've been working with lately?
I always say, what's your favorite plant of the week?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can't say what's your favorite plant on an herbal podcast. It's you can't do that. It's just not the right question.
It's just not fair. Of the week.
Exactly.
This week, I'm so one of our local herbal companies, Relaxation Teas. I'm going to be interviewing them soon. I'm sure it'll be on You'll have to get the link from me later on. But relaxation teas, they make incredible herb blends. There are a couple in Ventura that has been doing little pop-up markets all over. And they have like this detox blend that's got reishi, burdock, and green tea, lemongrass. It's awesome. So I'm not working with one, I'm working with a blend. And then I guess in general, like I just got a puppy, so sleep has been missing for a while. So I'm back to putting some adaptogen herbs in my coffee every morning because I need that little extra pep to get going.
I thought you were going to say pure stimulants.
Yeah. The several cups of coffee a day wasn't working, so I decided to go back to 1 cup of coffee and some ashwagandha or eleuthero or something to get me back up. So it's helping. Definitely helped a lot after just a few days.
I would like you to plug your interview series. Can you tell the audience about that? I know I'm going to be interviewed on in a couple of weeks. I was actually going to recommend, I Bet You Anything, Howie would love to come on as well. And yeah, why don't you tell them about your interview series?
So we do a free webinar once a month. We started off, we attempted to have a free community chapter of the Herbal Medics. Herbal Medics is Sam Suchel Kaufman out in Texas. We tried to have a California chapter. We did it for a few years. Over COVID, we eventually got burnt out. We decided we couldn't do it anymore. And so the school's taken kind of over what we started. And so we like to provide free herbal education on all sorts of topics, very similar to you. And so we interview, other herbalists, other entrepreneurs, other holistic living folks, gardeners, farmers, you name it. And sometimes it's an interview like this, and sometimes people give a spiel. Sometimes people talk about how to make salves. It's a ton of fun. So, you can go on our website under herbal workshops, and we have, lots of different free podcasts, or I should say videos, webinars that we do every month. And this next year, we'll be making them available online. We're finally catching up with the world of YouTube. You've beat us on that one. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So all of these interviews will end up on YouTube.
Either on YouTube or we haven't figured out how we're going to be launching them yet, but people can sign up online, and even if you can't make it live, you can get the recording. We send it out to you guys. So
awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, any closing thoughts, any advice you want to impart in the audience, or just anything you want to say before we wrap up and get out of here?
Great question.
That was a little jumbled. I don't know what I was saying there.
That's okay. It's all right. I know sometimes we just throw it together. I think just in general, if you guys are looking into the world of herbalism, it's a fun place to be. And, you never stop learning. You never stop growing. I never thought I'd be versatile in 50 different online programs, Yeah. But being an herbalist does mean wearing a lot of hats, and it means having fun and playing in nature. So just in general, don't stop playing and go explore. And I know Mason's Schoolhouse, if you guys aren't part of the HerbRally Schoolhouse yet, I want to say that membership program is amazing because you get to meet all these herbal educators and see what they're like for almost nothing. So great job putting that together, by the way.
Thank you for that plug. That's awesome. And you could get your first 30 days for free by using coupon code Schoolhouse30.
Yeah.
You rock, Emily. This has been a lot of fun. And you executed that question, that jumble of words that I put at you perfectly. So great way to wrap up the show. I'm really excited to be on yours. And with that, we'll wrap up this episode and we'll talk soon. All right.
Well, thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks so much for watching today's episode of the Herbalist Hour. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want more great herbal content, be sure to subscribe to our HerbRally YouTube channel. If you enjoy these Herbalist Hour episodes and you'd like to join us live, you can do so by becoming an HerbRally Schoolhouse member. Learn more at herbrally.com/schoolhouse. And if you want to get your first 30 days for free, use coupon code YouTube30 at checkout. So our HerbRally Schoolhouse members get access to exclusive video classes, monographs, and a lot more herbal community discounts, along with joining these live Herbalist Hour interviews. So one more time, herbrally.com/schoolhouse. Enter coupon code YouTube30 at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. All right, we'll see you in the next episode, and take care.